right, okay. So in my previous video, I demoed and reviewed Louder Than Liftoff's pentode color module. In it, I briefly went over what color is, but I think it deserves a little more coverage, and I got a lot of questions about the mods that I did to my unit. So I'm going to show you guys how you can expand the functionality of your units. So first of all, color is a format for analog audio processing. It was created by Peterson Goodwin and his company DIY Recording Equipment. I'll leave a link for them in the description below, so be sure to check them out. These small cards, which are the colors, the part that actually contains the audio circuitry that you're intentionally coloring your sound with, you put them into a host. So this is a host and this is a color. The host has your utilitarian function. It holds the unit, it handles in and out, and drive controls. Color is primarily focused around saturation, and the idea that a lot of what audio engineers pine after when they turn to analog equipment is not necessarily the tasks that it performs, but some of the, I guess you could say, unintended consequences of real analog components and circuitry. They've stripped that down to be able to fit on these small cards to have a very simple interface, very easy to use, sort of no nonsense approach to adding real analog sound to your recordings. The size of the color card might make you think that what it can be is very limiting, but some really talented designers have done full-blown EQs, compressors, Neve circuits, API circuits, you name it. This particular color is a module called Royal Blue. It's based on classic vintage Neve circuitry. It sounds amazing, and it also has a preset high shelf boost that you can either turn on or off via this little switch inside of the card. So the high shelf boost sounds incredible, but you don't necessarily want it on all the time. So rather than having to open up your unit and change the switch inside, I'm going to show you how you can access these functions right on the front panel rather than having to go physically inside of the unit to change it. So I'll show you how you can do that with some really simple mods. And this applies not only to the Royal Blue, but any color with this type of switch, which is very common. It uses this, which is a jumper, and it connects to these pins. The center pin is where your audio comes from, and you're sending it to one of the two outer pins. The jumper just fits on the pins. I'm going to show you a way that you can access those jumpers with a simple little toggle switch like this. This is a single pole double throw switch, and the way that we connect this to the pin header is with a wire like this. These are jumper wires. One other thing that you have to do is you have to figure out how you want to mount this switch. I would suggest picking up faceplates from DIY Recording Equipment. They sell them for only $5, and it looks like this. So you can drill a hole into your plate and just mount it right next to your color host. And I'll leave links for these specific parts. So the one other thing that you need is to be able to solder. And what I really like about this mod in particular is that it's very useful across a number of different colors, and it does not require any actual soldering of the color card itself. So it's totally non-destructive to your gear, which is great. That's why I suggest also getting a separate faceplate to mount your switch to. So here's how you do it. You simply take 3 of these jumper wires, you cut them to size, and then the side that you cut, you attach to your switch. It doesn't matter what order the wires go into, because the actual jumper part of the wire is what you'll pay attention to when you're connecting it to the color card. Here I have my switch all wired up and ready to go. As you can see, I've chosen to mount mine directly onto the faceplate of the color palette host. I don't recommend that you go this route unless you're very confident in being able to drill a nice, clean, and accurate hole. Otherwise, use a separate faceplate like this, and you can just mount your switches to the other faceplate. Here's an example of one that I made for a different color, and here you can see it mounted right next to the host on the left, and the panel that I made is to the right with the additional controls. All right, so here's the pin header. You just pop the jumper off and then slide your jumper wire right onto the pins. It's that easy. The only thing that you have to pay attention to is which wire goes where. One other tip that I failed to mention is use different color wire for each terminal on your switch. That way you can keep track of which wire goes to which terminal. It's very simple to wire up. The center terminal on the switch goes on the center pin header. When your switch is vertical like this, it's very easy to determine the orientation of how you want it to function. In my case, when the switch is down, I want the high shelf to be off, and when the switch is up, I want the high shelf to be on. So in the up position, your bottom terminal is active, and in the down position, your top terminal is active. So in my case, I want to connect the purple wire to the pin on the header that's labeled bypass, and then the white wire will be connected to the other pin. Here we have the royal blue module loaded up in the color palette host and wired up with the high boost switch. I'm going to pull up a test oscillator and we'll test this thing out. So here's the royal blue engaged. Not really anything visible going on with the meter. Now let's kick in the high shelf boost. And clearly we're getting a good amount of boost at that high end of the frequency spectrum from roughly around, reaches down a little bit lower than 4K, and from the markings here we're getting roughly about 45 to 40, so roughly a 5 decibel boost in that upper range, which is exactly what it's supposed to be. So awesome. And that's how you can tap an internal switch on a color module to be able to have access to that function while in operation. I love this mod because it's not destructive and is applicable to dozens of other colors and tons of other functions. Be sure to check out the description below for links to the materials that I used for DIY Recording Equipment's website to check out the other colors that are available, and leave comments below. Let me know what colors you're liking, what mods you're doing, and if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.